Now what I'd like to do is introduce a state of play panel. Where are we in implementing AI rules emerging from the European Union's AI Act? We will have Professor Floridi, as I've said, Dragos Tudoraki, Member of the European Parliament, Rapporteur for the Act, Martin Ulbricht, a good old colleague of mine from DG Connect, the leaders on the Act, Luca Bertuzzi, perhaps one of the technology journalists who's followed most closely these processes. Then we will have Virginia Giara for Fujitsu, and last but not least, Christian Bartolin on the Council of Europe. So we have, I think, ladies and gentlemen, the best possible panel, and I will get out of the way to let them get on with it. Luciano, you have the floor.
Thank you, Robert. And I hope the technology will be benign and support us. Trusting that the whole group, and I see many participants, can hear and see us properly. Let me start with a couple of small apologies. A habit acquired when I was in Oxford. The first one is that I have developed some kind of cough. Don't ask me how, but if you hear me constantly coughing, I hope this will not be a problem for our time together. The second apology is that the coughing has also affected some of the performance. So if you see me a little bit less enthusiastic about what we are going to say, is just because of the bad cough that has been making my evenings and nights unpleasant. So with that apology out of the way, I know we don't have much time, and I would love to give a monologue for a couple of hours, but I shall resist the temptation. I have a few points that I would like to share with you. It will not be a PowerPoint, but rather a bit of a dialogue, if you like, or walk through, to be more precise, some of the steps that have taken us here and some of the steps that we may take from here. I could start, and I'm not sure you can actually see me, but hopefully. I'll start from a year that Robert has already mentioned, 2017. Of course, in technology, that year seems to be a different era. It is the usual 5, 6, 7 years ago. I like to point that year because it's the year, and trust me, I don't have that good memory, I just have notes in front of me, is when the transformer architecture became popular. If that sounds a little bit too technical, is what is the generative pre-trained transformer architecture that we're talking about. Now, that should ring a bell, because if you look at just the letters, is GPT, and surely you have had been bombarded by bits of information for the past few years about Chat GPT or anything else that is GPT, Chat being one of them, transformers being the architecture that has made this huge leap in our development of artificial intelligence. Now, 2017 was also when we started with AI4People, considering the importance of the impact of this new technology. So a little step back in terms of technological development. Of course, we know that AI has been with us for really a long time. Wait a little bit longer and we might get to a century. 1950 is when we normally start dating the development of the first kind of AI. Of course, we know that that has gone through 2 at least macroscopic stages: the more logic-based, symbolic, deduction-oriented kind of AI, the one that people like me would be teaching very much in terms of mathematical logic still in the 90s, and the more recent statistical, heavily data-intensive sort of AI that is based on the sort of transformer technology, other magical things that our great scientists around the world have been able to develop, which of course has opened this new era in the history of AI. Now, in that context, ethical considerations have been with us since the very beginning. It dates to the 60s, the beginning of the debate about the ethical impact of AI. So these steps that have led to what we have today, which is, as a quick reminder, the AI Act. We heard also in the beautiful movie that we just saw, another milestone in the way in which we understand the development of our assessment of AI. Well, in the course of this development, of course, the ethical debate has been, if you like, hand in hand as technology moved forward. We have changed, adapted, modified our understanding of the ethical impact of all this technology. Remarkably, for people who are interested in the history of the ethics of AI, and trust me, there is such thing, some of the themes are recurrent. One, for example, and I will mention this very briefly, is the impact on jobs. We've been discussing this for almost a century, and for almost a century, people have been saying the usual things. It will destroy jobs. It will create new jobs. It gets a little bit boring if you are a bit historically oriented like myself, because, of course, things are always more complicated than your usual advertisement by your usual company, whether that is to scaremonger people or to reassure them without much evidence in the background anyway. Many other issues are still with us. Bias, of course, which has been, if anything, even more remarkable. Consider that in the past, if bias was an issue when symbolic AI was around, that was entirely human, of course. Today, bias is embedded in the data on which we train our AI, and therefore is magnified sometimes by the technology. It is a huge issue, but not for today. It's just pinpointing where the debate was around 2017 when we started doing some work with the AI4People. At that stage, there was the beginning of what we now know is the AI Act discussion. We went through a number of steps after the AI4People. We look at the high-level group of experts on the ethical principle, etc. It was a bit of a season, and it's important to step slowly here and a little bit carefully. It was a season of AI principles. This is the second point I'd like to stress. The development of AI, accompanied by the development of ethical discussion, the season of AI principles. At some point, and anyone who was around at that time with an interest in the topic must remember, anybody and his uncle was producing AI principles of all sorts. We even created websites collecting collections of AI principles. In a way, it became a cottage industry in and of itself. I can share with you some anecdotes, being careful not to embarrass anybody in particular, but I remember a very famous, important company asking for their own AI principles and telling them, look, they are already the OECD principles or the principle that we have put together with a high-level group. Just go for something that is already available. Just join a larger movement. The reply was, oh, no, Luciano, you don't understand. We have to have our own principles. My precious, for anyone who is a bit of a Tolkien fan. So it became a my precious moment, and the vocabulary was always the same. At the end of the day, there is only that amount of reasonable analysis that you can do on these grounds. That season has also come to an end. The view that we need to invest on AI principles has been fruitful. It is what you also find at the very introduction of the AI Act. We needed that framework. Again, trying to be careful. Today, it would be historically late to embark on one more exercise of analysis in terms of the AI principles idea. Despite that, we have still initiatives around the world that are trying to do exactly that. The latest one is by the UN. Not a bad initiative, not at all. But if you see the development of AI ethics and regulation, a little bit late in the day, almost as if the UN could not have my precious, my own position. Understandable, reasonable. The same can be said about the Vatican, but certainly late in the day when, in fact, the thing, and that is the next step, move to regulation. Case of AI, ethical impact, moment of ethical reflection, development of principles that led to what we know as today the AI Act. Has also led to an enormous amount of legislation. We normally talk about just the AI Act because it's so important, and rightly so, and because it has such a huge influence, and increasingly so in the future. But if you look at around, there are plenty of bills all over the place at the city level, at the state level, for example, in the United States, even at the federal level, a lot of proposals, again, in the United States, but also around the world, from Chile to Japan, from the Philippines and Indonesia to Canada. There has been a flourishing of regulatory initiatives, and rightly so. So we move from, and forgive me for the oversimplification, the development of AI in its second stage, call it the statistical moment, contrary to the previous moment, it was just very logical, mathematical, to an analysis of the impact, to principles and frameworks, to regulation. And regulation now is the new black in town, to refer to some movies, is what we do and what we are concentrating on. Let's pause for a moment. This development has made some initiatives slightly obsolete. I mentioned the UN, the Vatican, but also anyone who every now and then at a conference raise their hand and say, we should really discuss the ethics of AI, or where are the principles for it? Well, we have them. We have had the debate. We have had the fruits of that debate. We publish, including, I don't want to do too much self-advertisement, but since we are here with AI4People, just a tiny, tiny little footnote. We did quite a lot of work ourselves in that direction. So that season is not over, but needs to be updated. Updated in one way. Well, today we have the regulation. We have the AI Act. The AI Act is not yet effective, but is going to be implemented in a matter of many, many months, not many, many years. So we're getting there. And looking also at the time, I also need to get there. Let me just add, therefore, now a few steps in terms of not where we came from, but where we are and where we're going. What we are today is at a stage where the ethical debate needs to upgrade itself. It's no longer about identifying the problems, because we have identified them. And it's no longer about developing foundational principles, because we have them. So what is the ethical debate today at a time where compliance is actually what matters most for companies? Compliance first. Well, compliance certainly is a matter of being aligned with what the regulation says. And if I need to operate within or with or somewhat related with European data, citizens, institutions, I need to be compliant with the AI Act. That's clear to everybody, and is in line with also the previous legislation that has had the same effect on data protection, etc. It's part of the European architecture that is being built around the new digital revolution, the information society. Part also of the larger debate, not for today, concerning digital sovereignty, who controls what. So compliance is that positive alignment with what the law says. There's also, if you like, a bit of my own terminology, you don't have to share it, the negative compliance, meaning the ability to do whatever the law says I can do because the law doesn't forbid it. So if you want to have a bit of a distinction between positive compliance, follow the rules, well, negative compliance is you can do whatever you wish if the rules are not there, or if the rules don't say you are not allowed to do it. Now, this side is what is requiring more ethical analysis. In the distinction between can doesn't translate in should, the simple fact that the law says you can do it, I'm not going to forbid you from doing it, doesn't mean that we don't need a lot of ethical understanding whether that is the right thing to do. Maybe it's a gray area. Maybe we haven't covered that yet. Remember that the AI Act leaves an enormous amount of extra applications and AI developments uncovered for obvious reasons, from some parts of, for example, medical applications, social applications, to cybersecurity and cyber war and military applications. So there are a lot of areas where what we need is more ethical understanding. Is it the right thing to do? Assuming that the law is not forbidding it. Then there is an area, again, of ethical understanding, which needs to be applied when the law is ambiguous, is not clear enough, needs to be interpreted. So here's a step forward, and mind my words, we're going to see this. At some point, people will have litigations. Litigations will reach the ultimate level of the European Court of Justice. When you reach that level, how do you judge about the law being or not being applicable, right, properly interpreted, etc., if not in terms of some kind of framework that clarifies, interprets, helps us to get the law right? So once again, where the law is not there or when it is opaque, needs to be interpreted, leaves room for alternative views, there will be more ethical understanding. For all this, advice to not just companies, but individuals, governments, units within governments, it seems to me quite essential.
Luciano, just to check
2 minutes.
You're coming to a close? Yeah, okay.
Also, 2 steps forward. So what I was looking at now from here onwards, I think there are 2 or 3 challenges that I'd like to leave you with. One, I mentioned compliance, but we will not stress that. One is the AI Act is sufficiently interpretable to generate a lot of competition in Europe. We will see European states competing with each other for how friendly they are towards foreign investments. 2, risk management. The AI Act is a risk-based legislation, and risk management will be the future. Now, one way in which we will deal with risk management is through insurance. So the next step, and I've said this many times already, will be the transformation of risk into a cost that is called a premium, so that where there is risk and when everything has been tried and applied ethically and legally, there's also the extra reassurance that if something goes wrong, and we are in history, human affairs, something will go wrong, the risk will be managed also through that sort of risk management mechanism that we have. So with this, I close here. The present is compliance. The future is risk management, more ethical understanding of what the legislation will or will not do, and more competition. With these 3 points, I think there is plenty of work to be done. Thank you.